When it comes to self-development, no matter the method you use, the vital point is to practice. If you're ready to transform your life and claim the potential inside of you, then you're in the right place. Welcome back to The Vital Point. I'm your host, Jonathan Schecter. As a transformation coach and breathwork facilitator, I'm invested in making the dynamic landscape of personal evolution accessible. My goal is to inspire you to take action for yourself. You have the capacity to evolve and bring your intentions and dreams into the world. There's never been more access to so many incredible modalities that can help you on your journey. This podcast will help you learn simple methods you can use to transform your life and share the stories of practitioners who are doing the work so you feel inspired to go and practice, because that's the vital point. Today, I just wanted to do a quick solo episode for you with something that has been alive to me. It's kind of come back into my consciousness recently, but it's something that has resonated with me and has been, dare I say, a cornerstone of my own transformation and the way that I look at the world for many, many years. I think sometimes with this type of work, when we're talking about, inner work or personal transformation, we have a tendency to search for answers outside of ourselves. We have a tendency to look to something that we don't feel like we have, rather than realizing that what's actually going to help us oftentimes are the simple foundational things that aren't fancy, that aren't exotic. There are foundational things that we can do. It's like the saying of keep it simple. So today I wanted to share something along that line. For me, this has been the ultimate in keep it simple, and has been a way in which I have steered my life for many years. That method is often known as the Serenity Prayer. Now, I first learned about the Serenity Prayer within the context of 12-step. When I got sober as a young adult in my late teenage years, it was there for me, and I didn't quite take advantage of it so much. But as I've gotten older, as I've gone through my own inner work, I have relied on the Serenity Prayer more and more and more. And I think one of the beautiful things about it is that you don't have to, necessarily be working a 12-step program in order to utilize the wisdom and the knowledge of this simple practice. So if you're not familiar with the Serenity Prayer, the actual prayer itself goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, first of all, I'll say, if you got turned off by the word God in that prayer, just take it out. It's just that simple. God can take whatever form you understand or connect with in this context. It can be any higher power that you're working with. It could be any sorts of inspiration. It could be source itself, or spirit, or your own highest consciousness. There's plenty of ways to work with that energy without having some sort of knee-jerk reaction that people sometimes have to the word God. So the first line, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. This is one of the hardest things for people in general, is that we get really upset by things that we don't have any control over. And I think this is human nature. It's definitely something that I work on myself. It's a very stoic or Buddhist kind of idea as well, I think, of having the serenity to accept the things that you cannot change. And let's even unpack that a little bit more. Serenity, right? The acceptance, the inner peace from letting go of the things that we can't control. I even see this in working with the nervous system, working with anxiety or depression. We learn tools and methods and practices to help us mitigate these feelings or circumstances that we find ourselves in that we might not like. That's one side of it. The other side of it is just learning to be with a particular feeling. You know, we might come to a place where we realize we can't always completely lose that feeling of discomfort, but can we breathe with it? Can we give ourselves grace and compassion, knowing that that feeling is going to change eventually? Yeah. Having the serenity for the things that we cannot change. That's where we start. Another sort of context for this that I've always loved comes from one of my favorite Buddhist texts, Shantideva's A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. This is a classic, just an amazing, amazing book. And one of my favorite quotes from this book, I'm just going to paraphrase it, is, if there's a solution to the problem, why worry about it? And if there's no solution to the problem, why spend time worrying about it? Right? So either there's a solution or there's not. And regardless, if there's a solution, then it's what can we do to actually implement that? And if there's no solution, then why should I waste time worrying about it? And so to me, these are the same things, that the Serenity Prayer is saying, maybe in a different language and from a different cultural context, with the same lesson. So moving on from grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can. I got to tell you that if we didn't collectively and individually need courage to change things that we didn't like about ourselves, I would probably need to find a new job. You know, oftentimes in my coaching, that's what I'm supporting people with doing, is having the courage to be able to move through the challenges of the things that are no longer aligned for them. The courage to change the things that they actually want to change, and giving them the tools and the resources to support them moving through this feeling of stuckness. Because even when we have something in our mind that we want to change, oftentimes when we go to actually change it, that's where we encounter the resistance, the stuckness, the limiting beliefs that say, no, we can't do that. And another way of looking at that is that we're doing something that feels unsafe to the nervous system. And so the nervous system goes, nope, we're not doing that because we just want to stay safe. And it's safer to stay with what's known, even if it's not what's making us happy, often. So the courage to change the things that I can is such an important step to take towards self-actualization, towards creating the life, living and embodying the life that you truly want. So if you can change it, having the courage to change the things that you can. And then the wisdom to know the difference. That may be the most important thing, right? Because that's going to differentiate where we're placing our attention and our energy. And so let me share how I work with the Serenity Prayer. And I'm going to share how I suggested this to a client recently. So I was working with a client recently, and they were expressing a lot of frustration and stuckness with being pulled in two different directions at once. On the one hand, they wanted to set better boundaries with their parents. On the other hand, they felt unsafe not supporting their parents, even though they didn't really agree with something that was happening. And so there was this push-pull thing where they were being, just sort of dragged in two different directions. So my suggestion to them was to take a big piece of paper and put a line right down the middle. On the left side, put things I cannot change. On the right side, put things I can change. And then just go through and list off all the challenges, all the frustrations, all the problems that they were having. And as they went through and took this inventory one by one, to ask themselves, can I change this? Can I not? And write it on either side of the paper, depending on the answer. And then once they had that list, to go through it and to ask themselves honestly, which are the ones that I feel resistance around? What are the things that don't have control over that I'm feeling frustrated about? And can I let go of those? What are the things that I do have control over, but I feel frustrated because I'm not actually changing? I'm not taking action on it. And just really being honest with themselves about not only is this something that I can change, but is it something that I'm struggling with because I'm not being honest with it being changeable or not? Does that make sense? And, not only is this something that I'm recommending for clients, it's something that I'm working on myself all the time as an entrepreneur, as someone that's technically in their first year of, full solo business without a corporate job to fall back on or a safety net. There are things that I would really love to spend more time on, but I have to make some decisions about, are these the things that I can change versus the things that I don't have any control over? And sometimes we struggle with this for a long time until something happens that really, really takes that control out of our life. Oftentimes people wait until their back is completely against the wall to change, or they don't have any other options to sort of give up and say, okay, I can't do anything about this anymore. But we really don't have to wait that long to actually do that. And I would invite you to just do that practice, especially if you're struggling with making a major change in your life, or that you're struggling with moving through some things that you actually know would be good for you, but you're just not able to take the first step. It's worthwhile going through and contemplating, journaling, meditating on, is this something that I can control? And if it's not, what can I do to let it go as quickly as possible? If it is something that you can control, what's one thing that you can do to move towards that change, right? You don't have to do the whole thing right now, but courage comes from beginning to take action. To me, the definition of courage is feeling afraid and taking the action anyway. And then that wisdom is just letting go of the things that you don't control and focusing that extra energy on the things that you do. So again, really not rocket science. It's pretty simple if you think about it. And in my experience, a lot of this personal development work and becoming the best version of ourselves comes down to things that are simple but not easy. And so this is one of those things you can integrate this into your life right now. I would invite you to save this podcast and come back to it when you need to. And just all you need is a piece of paper and a pen, or you could just go through the things that you're struggling with in your mind and just ask yourself that question. Is this something I can control? And if it is, what's something that I can do to move towards that right now? And I think when I have started to let go of the things that I don't control, it gives me more energy to actually focus on the things that I do, the things that are important. And so the sooner that you can implement this strategy into your life, the easier things are going to get. And if you would like some support around it with these type of techniques or things to help you regulate your nervous system to be able to take that first step a little bit easier, then perhaps working together in my coaching program would be a good fit for you. One of the things that I'm focusing on right now in my coaching work is Breathwork for integration. It's a 6-session container that takes people through different ways to work with the breath to support themselves in their inner work. So we start with awareness practices. And again, really the Serenity Prayer is a type of awareness practice, right? We're getting in touch with, is this something that I can control versus what I can't? So we're applying a little bit of awareness and insight into our experience. And then moving on to using the breath for nervous system regulation, right? When we start to change, when we take that first step towards a goal that feels challenging or that we felt blocked with, there's going to be some discomfort in the body often. And having the resources to be able to move through that is invaluable. And the breath is one of the most powerful ways that we can learn to work through and move through these blocks. And then lastly is using our breath work for transformation. So being able to enter an expanded state and connect with our consciousness in a very profound way where these additional insights can come up, where we can get some clarity sometimes about, oh, wow, I don't have any control over this, so I should let it go. Or, oh, this is the next step that I should take, and getting inspired to be able to move through that. All the techniques that we teach in the Breathwork for Integration program are so complementary to the 3 lines of the Serenity Prayer and being able to integrate that into your life. And I would love to support you moving into the new year with more clarity and more inspiration to move forward. So if that's you, go ahead and click the link on the show page. So that was it. Didn't want this to be a super long one. Hope that you found this helpful. Hope that you bookmark it and come back to it. And hope that if you're a fan of the show and you've been listening regularly, that you could help me out with a few things. Number one, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. It super, super helps get to more people. Second is to sign up for my newsletter. You can do that at beacons.ai/Blue Magic Alchemy or at bluemagicalchemy.com, or go to any of my socials. I mean, basically anywhere on the internet where you see Blue Magic Alchemy, it's going to be me. So that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And you can connect to my newsletter through any one of those links. And lastly, if any of this is curious to you, especially about discovering how breathwork can support you in your personal journey of exploration and self-discovery, then come to one of our online breathwork sessions. They are an amazing way to recharge, to get inspired, and to drop into a state of relaxation and inner peace. That's serenity even. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for listening. And remember that regardless of the method you're using, the vital point is to practice. So until our next episode, keep exploring, keep growing, and above all, keep practicing, because that's the vital point.